G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report time. So, I want to start with a story that was broke by the Daily Mail. It was broke last night. Now, when I seen this on Twitter, it was actually the guy who shared it was the actual guy who wrote the article. And it was about Conor Benn. So, I've said before, I'm pretty much done with the whole Conor Benn failed drugs test situation because it's boring the hell out of me. They're only talking about the WBC. I don't give a what about the whole WBC thing. It doesn't mean anything to his future. It literally means nothing because he can still fight for whatever sanction. But if the WBC ban him, then it's irrelevant, realistically. Because all it means is he can't fight for WBC sanctioned fights bouts for a year. That's it. He can still fight for a WBO, WBA, IBF, etc. So I've always said, it means nothing to me. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm not going to talk about it until there's something to do with Ukad, which is the real important one. That's the one that we really want to know what the situation is with that. And this one right here. So I'm going to read the article here. So investigation into Conor Benn's 2 failed drug tests is held up over lack of cooperation with UK anti-doping agency as he blames contamination and eating too many eggs. An investigation into Conor Benn's 2 failed drug tests has been held up amid claims of lack of cooperation from the boxer's team. Benn's case is being scrutinised by both the WBC ranking body and a separate probe led by the UK anti-doping agency and the British Boxing Board of Control over a positive test that crashed the October fight with Eubank Jr, as revealed by Sports Mail. While Benn side last month submitted a 270-page dossier to the WBC inquiry, whose remit is seemingly limited to determining if the fighter can return to the ring or can return to his place at number 5 in the welterweight standings. Less cooperation has been forthcoming for the more, and this is the important bit here, the more meaningful UKAD and Board of Control investigation that will assess if he faces a doping ban in this country. And that's the thing that I've been saying. That's why I don't want to talk about any WBC issues or anything like that, because as they state in the article, the more meaningful, which is the UKAD one, that's the one we need to focus on. Never mind what the WBC say. Obviously it's not a good look if they do ban him, I get that, but it means literally nothing. Povetkin, I've used this, I'll use it again, banned for a year by the WBC. He fought for a WBO Intercontinental title as well as a WBA Intercontinental title whilst he was banned by the WBO. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay, so what they're reporting here is that Benn, and Benn, he's been making videos saying, and of course he would be, Benn is not, he's not bright, it's fair to say. He keeps on, he's one of these, clearly you can tell he's one of these trust the science weirdos. Those types, and Benn strikes me as one of them. So he's been going on saying, and I think look, I was watching Hatman's video on this earlier, and I was only thinking about this myself the other day. With Tyson Fury, say what you want to say about him. When did you ever, he obviously talked about coming back. He did talk about that. So when the whole UKAD situation was going on with him, and he was talking about, I'll be coming back, I'm in Marbella training with Billy Joe Saunders, whilst he was still grotesquely overweight, it had to be said, he never put his foot in it with UKAD. He always tended to keep quiet on that. He talked about returning to the ring. He said he was going to fight here, there, everywhere, but he never got into all the kind of situations why he was banned, etc. Conor Benn is the polar opposite. He's constantly saying, I prove my innocence. Okay, where's the evidence? At the end of the day, I've said this once, I'll say it again, the term innocent until proven guilty, there's always been that term, and you have to look at it, innocent until proven guilty. You have to. However, with Conor Benn, it's different. It's guilty until proven innocent, because this isn't a situation where someone has come out and a good example would be Jarrell Miller. I mean, it was really just, what would you want to call it, poetic justice. when Jarrell Miller came out and accused Anthony Joshua of being on PEDs in the run-up to their fight that never happened, he accused Joshua of being on PEDs despite the fact he was on them himself, and he failed the drugs test for them. So what you look at that and say, Joshua, he accused Joshua. You can't turn around and say, well, Joshua was clearly a drug cheat, because, well, where's the evidence? There is none. But with Conor Benn, he's failed 2 drugs tests. So prove your innocence. You know, it's not enough for me. And again, I've always said, if Conor Benn can produce some evidence that shows categorically, okay, and you can scrutinise it, you can look at it and you can say, fair enough. I'd be the first to hold my hand up and say, fair enough, done, right, innocent, fair enough. But he's not done that. And at the way it looks now, it just, all this, the WBC situation, sending that dossier, but yet, as it states here, being less than forthcoming at all, really, with Ukad and the British Boxing Board of Control, that to me is more of a red flag. It really is. So, look, at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Eddie Hearn, likelihood is, will get Conor Benn out in Australia. Is obviously where Conor Benn was brought up in. I know it probably won't be against anyone good. And I think as well, the way Conor Benn has handled this situation, the whole taunting Eubank, I get that. To be fair, I know probably while he's under his own issues and he has his own issues, probably not the best to do it. But I get why he did it, because Eubank's been going in on him every chance he gets. So I get that. I guess I get it with Billy Joe Saunders as well. But in terms of just making these videos, coming out and saying I'm innocent, I proved it. Okay, where's the proof, please? If you're saying it, I'm not one of these fanboys who's just going to be like, see, he's innocent. Why? Because he said it? Oh, brilliant. Someone told me the other day, a guy I like told me the sky is green. Am I going to believe that? No, I'm going to look up and say, well, actually, yeah, I don't know what you're smoking, but that's clearly blue. So just because he says it doesn't make it true. We need to actually see some of the evidence. So that's my stance on this situation. I don't want to linger on it too long, but it just isn't. It's just such a not a good look for Conor Benn. It really isn't. I think if he comes back in to fight in the UK, I don't know. I don't think the boxing fans have short memories. It is fair. That's fair to say. But I just don't think that if he's coming back expecting to be cheered and expecting the fans to be, happy with him early on, I think he's in for a rude awakening. And I don't know if Conor Benn, I don't know if he could play that villain. I don't know if Eubank Jr. is the sort of guy where he doesn't really give a what if you're booing him or cheering him. He really doesn't care. With Conor Benn, I think he likes the fans to be cheering. I think he likes to be on the good side. I don't know how he'd react, really. Maybe he wouldn't react. Anyway, I could be just surmising here, but maybe he wouldn't react any different if they were booing him or cheering him. But it's just, we'll watch the space. Eubank Jr., Liam Smith, people are talking about this elbow, which caused, now I've watched that several times, it looks to me like a clear punch, and at the end of the day, the uppercut was the punch, in my opinion, that did it all for Eubank Jr. in that fight. The uppercut, an uppercut is a very, very, it's a tremendous punch, and more often than not, when you see a fighter get hit with an uppercut that really snaps the head, it's usually curtains, because that really tends to mess the legs up something terrible. And I don't think Eubank Jr. helped the fact by getting up as quick as he did. I think doing that, you see, when he got up so quick, his legs were clearly on rubber. And that strikes me as someone who's probably never been buzzed or hurt really that badly before, because he just didn't know what to do. When your legs are that badly gone and the referee sees it, especially when you get up so quick, the first thing they're thinking of is stop the fight. If you maybe just took the 8 count, got up and tried to compose yourself, chances are he might not have, he should have, I have no issue with the stoppage, but chances are he might let it go on a bit longer, maybe. So Liam Smith's been talking about the rematch, and really Liam Smith, he's in a great position. I know Ben Shalom in the immediate aftermath was talking about the rematch and saying that, look, he'd love to get Liam Smith out in Anfield. Personally, for me, I've said this once, I'll say it again, Roy Jones was hinting that, they might be looking at doing the rematch, but for me, personally, if I was advising Eubank Jr., I'd be saying, look, you really shouldn't take the rematch. Especially when it's a fight like that, the way it went. You're better off moving to 168. At the end of the day, Eubank, as far back as I think 2016, there was people talking about him moving to 168 sooner rather than later. And I think that he was in a situation back then where he could do 168, but he could still do 160 reasonably comfy. He spent 2 years at 168 pounds. I would say by that point he might not have been the biggest 168 pounder, but he'd probably at that point outgrown middleweight. So to come back down, it was always going to be tricky. And I think now, well, personally for me, I think that the weight cut he did for the Conor Benn fight, which we know didn't happen, he looked bad. He looked very, very, very bad that Saturday morning. And I think he was 159. He looked very bad. And I just don't think there was enough time. It was a little over 3 months. And I think when you have a really hard weight cut like that, I think you need a long time before your body is physically back to where it needs to be. I would imagine that he probably had a couple of weeks off, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then was straight back into camp trying to get the weight back off again. And I think that probably really was the cherry on the cake in terms of having a fighter who just aesthetically looked brilliant but just didn't have anything left. Aesthetically, Eubank Jr., he's one of the most impressive specimens you'll see on a weighing scale. Just shredded, the definition. But just because he looks good on the scale, it doesn't mean that he is good, in there. I'd say that weight cut was extremely difficult, and I think he needs to just move to 168. I do. It doesn't get any easier up there. Those guys are massive. When you see 168 pounders, they're massive. They really are. Like, some of them, I'm telling you now, some of them are bigger than light heavyweight. They look bigger. You look at Dave Benavidez, he's a light heavyweight. Ramirez, when he was fighting at 168, he was bigger than a lot of guys fighting at light heavyweight. And look at him when he moved up to light heavyweight 4 years ago, and he's already massive. He's probably the biggest guy at the division in terms of just sheer body size. He's huge. So Eubank, it's not going to get any easier at 168. It really won't. It really, really won't. For Liam Smith, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the Kell Brook fight next. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Ben Shalom announces that, or we start seeing Kell Brook uploading training pics. Wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't like it, but it's a big payday for both guys. It is a big payday for both guys. On a more lighter note, when I read this, I laughed and I laughed and I laughed again. And why should I be surprised? So Deontay Wilder was interviewed, you see where I'm going with this, was interviewed by Ellie Setback. I'm going to quote him directly here. He was asked who would win between Fury and Usyk. Quote, "I don't know. That's a 50-50 fight. Depends on who's going to cheat the hardest. That's what it is. It depends on who's going to cheat the hardest." He is still holding on to this foolish belief that Tyson Fury cheated in, well, I don't know about the third fight. He's never really mentioned that, but the belief that he cheated in the first and the second fight, and somehow Alexander Usyk is also a cheater. Make that make sense. He's never fought Usyk. Is he implying that Usyk cheated against Joshua? What? Joshua's never made that claim. Deontay Wilder, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't. I've never seen anyone go to lengths to excuse a loss. Now, he's never mentioned, as far as I'm aware, the trilogy fight loss. He's never brought that one up. But this is a guy who, in the immediate aftermath, in the ring, mentioned the fact that after he lost to Fury in 2020, mentioned the fact that he had a bicep injury that he was bringing into it. Then his suit was too heavy. Then it was Glovegate, where, again, it shows the Wilder fans, just in a nutshell, where they actually took gloves. They took images of gloves from the first fight and claimed that they were Fury's gloves in the second fight, right? And then all of a sudden he was using loaded gloves in both fights, despite the fact he never so much as came close to buzzing Wilder in the first fight, but somehow, those gloves were loaded. Then Deontay Wilder, so apparently he'd loaded gloves, despite the fact that A, the hand wraps are scrutinised, B, Deontay Wilder's trainer and the trainer he's closest with, JD, was looking over Fury while his hand drops were being made, and yet somehow we're led to believe that they were able to sneak something in unbeknownst to JD's, who was there himself looking at it. Then it was Mark Breland spiked him. He'd been training Deontay Wilder for the guts of a decade, but this was all planned. This was all planned out. In 2010, him and Fury concocted this plan that was going to culminate in the end of February 2020. That was the plan all along. You see where I'm going? It was just crazy. So again, he's still holding on to the belief that Fury cheated, and now he's added Alexander Usyk to that. I mean, there's just a gift that keeps on giving this guy, isn't he? He really is. I've always said it. Deontay Wilder, I love watching him fight. Love watching him fight. If I could, I'd never miss a Wilder fight. Love watching him fight. Probably my favourite fighter to watch, just for excitement. But God, this guy ain't bright. I mean, this guy right here, it's funny. Like, it's comical. Do you know that sort of way? Like, you read it and you just kind of, you can't help but not laugh. You know, it is just funny. I just find it funny. I find it amusing. So, that's Deontay Wilder. And, you know, like, Wilder in his career, I'll never forget, I talked about it in the post-fight with Conor Benn. I'll never forget how pleased he was that Joshua lost to Ruiz. So much so that he was acting almost like he did it, that he was the one who beat Joshua that night, despite the fact it was Ruiz. And it was like, you know, you've just seen your rival get bet, okay? Your rival who potentially could have made you, seriously, as much as life-changing money. You know, $100 million offer on the table, which is now well and truly gone. And you probably won't get anything close to that in terms of a purse ever. And you're somehow happy with that. Right. Okay, make that make sense. Speaking of Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin, all intents and purposes a done deal. April the 1st. April Fool's Day, O2 Arena in London. O2 Arena in London. No issue with this fight. I've said it once, I'll say it again. As a comeback opponent, fine. No, that's fine. Let him have. I think he needs 2 or 3 more, maybe even as much as 4. It really depends on how he looks in there. You know, Franklin early on, when he's fresh, I don't think he has really that much power. I think even Joshua should be able to. Although saying that, Dylan White was buzzed by Franklin, but to be honest with you, at this stage, I'd say Joshua has the better chin out of the two. Seriously, people can say Joshua's chinny and this, that, and the other. I don't think he's Amir Khan or David Price level chinny, or people like Seth Mitchell, people like them who were just terrible chins. I don't think he's that bad. Is he, you know, sturdy chin? No, he can be hurt, and he's got the second kind of thing you definitely don't want, is when he gets hurt, he stays hurt. It's bad enough to be dropped, but like look at Bellew. You know, Bellew will get dropped a lot, but he'd normally recover fairly quick, like Tyson Fury. That's fine. It's not fine. It's not ideal, but at least you know, all right, I can recover. But to be the sort of guy where you get dropped and then you don't recover for a while, that's really not good. That's not what you want. But I don't think he's as bad as people make it out to be in terms of the chin department. I think Dylan White probably has a worse chin, in my opinion, certainly, than Anthony Joshua, at this stage anyway. So him against Franklin, look, I'm okay with that fight. I don't think it's a terrible fight, truth be told. You know, Joshua, he might have just a few issues here and there early on. Ultimately, I think he will just be too big, as Carford said, too big, too strong, and have too much in the tank for Franklin. I think he'll take risks that Dylan White didn't. Dylan White was he was trying to be the boxer, and I think he'll see what Franklin has to offer, and then kind of, all right, let's go for it. Alexander Usyk, a video of himself eating a burger, calling out belly, and he even put this, how others see you, Fury on the scales, and how Usyk sees him as a burger. Alexander Usyk, he is going to be full steam ahead. Honestly, he is going to be full steam ahead. I still hope we're getting this fight. I think we are. There's no reason why we shouldn't. You know, for both guys, it has to be Fury fight Usyk, and it has to be Usyk fighting Fury. That's how I see it. I think that's how it's going to be. I really, honestly, hand on heart, think that's how it's going to be. I can't see it. No, it has to be both guys meeting. Whenever that may be, April or May, I'd say probably into the summer, realistically. Realistically, it's probably going to be into the summer. I always was a bit, it sounded nice on paper, February, March, but I was always kind of like, I think we'll get it, but I think that's too soon in the year. I think there'll be a few little stumbling blocks along the way, and it's probably going to be the summer before we get any kind of real announcement on or announcement date for the fight. Probably get the announcement long before that, but that's what I always kind of felt, and I still think that. So probably April, May, and hopefully we have this fight, because we're going into the month of October now. Jesus, yeah, dates are all over the place. Now we're going into the month of February now, soon, next week. So they need to get a move on. I think we'll still get it. I really do. There's not been a great deal to talk about. You know, obviously we have Tim Tszyu versus Tony Harrison, which has recently been announced for the interim title at super welterweight, March the 12th in Australia. A very good fight. I personally think Tim Tszyu will win that. I think he'll win it comfortably enough. Harrison is very, very talented. He's one of the most talented fighters at 154 pounds. But I just think that chin is always going to be an issue. I think it will. I think Tim Tszyu has enough power to crack it. I really do. But we'll wait and see. I look forward to that fight. Tim Tszyu is a very, very big fighter in Australia. And I look forward to him. We were meant to be getting him and Charlo. I think it would have been, if Charlo hadn't have been injured, we would have been getting it this weekend. And obviously this weekend, Anthony Yard, Artur Beterbiev. Are you looking forward to it? I certainly am. I can't wait for this fight. I really can't. Also, Moses Atuma on the undercard. He's the main guy I'm looking forward to see it. Apart from the main event. Excuse me, obviously the main event is going to be, I think it's going to be a shootout. Part of me thinks it's going to be a shootout. I've said it, I've made my pick on it. I'm giving it to Beterbiev early in the first 5 rounds. But I think that main event is going to be fun. Don't blink type of main event. And obviously Moses Atuma, the pro journey starts. Has he had an opponent announced yet, actually? I'll just box rec it real quick. I'll just see, has any opponent announced for Moses Atuma? We'll go on to BoxRec, good old BoxRec, and see. That's his amateur career, pro. Okay, obviously, interesting. So he's going to be out on, obviously, this coming Saturday, and he's going to be back out again on March the 25th. I think that's on the undercard of Nathan Healy versus Jack Flaherty. So back out 2 months. So fight this month, off February, and fight at the end of March. There's 2 fights already, and he's fighting a guy on this show called Marcel Boyd. Now, Marcel Boyd, he is 2-1. And he's got 2 KOs. His only loss was a KO loss back in November to a guy who was 8-1. Alright, so obviously not. Look, this is a Czech Republic guy. He's 26 years old. Made his pro debut April last year. Obviously, by the looks of things, had no amateur fights, anything. So this is probably a journeyman in training. He's not got an officially journeyman's record yet, but it's a journeyman in training. And I would imagine Moses Atuma will dispatch him with ease. With relative ease. So Moses Atuma looking forward to seeing him and seeing how he gets on in his pro career. There's a lot we need to look at. Obviously, we need to see how he is under pressure. That will come with time. But he wants 8 fights this year. Let's see, will he get it? I'll leave you with that, people. Smash the like button if you could on your way in or on your way out. Hit subscribe, of course, as well, if you haven't already. I have something planned for you guys tomorrow. Wait and see. You're going to like it. I think you're going to like it. Hope you do anyway. Leave you with that, people. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I'll talk to you.